Olá, estamos começando mais uma semana do Seminário Internacional de Comunicação Multimodal, Arte, Ciência, Política e Audiovisual, nessa apresentação, nesse seminário que reúne professores, pesquisadores do Brasil, dos Estados Unidos, Colômbia, Portugal, Espanha e do Chipre. Hoje nós teremos como convidada especial aqui a professora Aysu Arsoy. Eu vou fazer a apresentação dela aqui primeiro para ela, em inglês, e ela vai fazer a apresentação dela toda em inglês, e as perguntas ao final da apresentação a gente coloca na tela as perguntas dos nossos alunos. Aysu, it's a pleasure to have you participating in the International Seminar of Multimodal Communication. We will be pleased to welcome research from Brazil, Colombia, United States, Portugal, Spain, and Cyprus, with Professor and Researcher Aysu Arsoy. The event is multilingual, and we will also have a guest speaker who will give their presentation in Portuguese, English, and Spanish. Aysu Arsoy will give her presentation in English. But Aysu, I'm going to introduce you to our audience in Português, ok? A Aysu Arsoy é doutora em filosofia, professora associada no Departamento de Artes Visuais e Design de Comunicação Visual na Universidade do Mediterrâneo Oriental, em Famagusta, no Chipre do Norte. Ela foi autora e coautora de vários capítulos de livros e artigos relacionados a mitos da mídia, mídias sociais, crimes cibernéticos e exposição de crianças na mídia. Palestrante em diversos seminários internacionais de mídia e pesquisa em comunicação. Pesquisou, expôs e apresentou temas de etnografia visual e sociologia visual no Chipre e nos Estados Unidos. Junto comigo, com muita satisfação, vice-coordenadora do Grupo de Pesquisa em Comunicação Multimodal da IMCR, cuja nossa coordenadora foi a palestrante da semana passada, a professora Sandra Ristovska. A Aysu Arsoy vai apresentar e debater aqui conosco, no nosso Seminário Internacional de Comunicação Multimodal, o seu belo trabalho. Aysu, you have 40 or 45 minutes for a presentation. Then we will have time for questions from our students. Thank you very much for your participation, my friend. Aysu, please, you can start your presentation.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and I'm very thrilled to be with you. Thank you very much. My presentation, maybe you can maybe start it. Thank you very much. I just want to start with a little bit theoretical perspective of the multimodal research methodology. So I just prepare a little information about how the multimodality research methods are evolving and growing and where we are. So it's actually starting from the holidays perspective from the social semiotics and especially focused on the systematic functional linguistic. And the basis of this is actually to understand meaning making through the languages. So he was using some steps for that, which he called the meta functions, and it's one of them is identical, interpersonal, and textual that you can see. So later on, the next step was the Kress and the Leuven work on the holidays methodology, and they emphasize, the Kress emphasized about the theoretical breadth, and the Leuven focused on the framework, practical framework. So they work on to develop this multimodality in communication, but not based on the language, it's non-linguistic methods. So then for the Kress multimodality and the theory, which interacts not just through the writing, but also from the speaking, gesture, gaze, and visual forms. And for both of them, for Kress and the Leuven, meta function to visuals actually is turned to representational, interactive, and composition. And the modality, especially for the press, the mode is generally defined as the communication channel that a character recognizes. And for able to interpret them, so you need more interpretation than following the languages. So you need to know the culture, you need to know more about the forms. So multimodality as a methodology, maybe we can say that it refers to integration of the multiple modes of the communication, text, image, sounds, gesture. Multimodality also refers to the diversity of the communicative symbols, written or oral, and generally the multimodality communicates. It's not limited with the language alone, but it's dynamic interpretation of the various semiotics resources. So then in this framework, how diverse communication resources are combined in media to shape the meaning, influence audience, and reflect social dynamics. So in here, if we need to describe the multimodality, then we can say that multimodality describes communication practice in terms of textual, oral, linguistic, spatial, gestural, and visual sources. And we use this multimodality to compose the messages. So in that sense, analysis of the multimodal action and the interaction, maybe at now we can talk about time and how the time and speed is used. And not in time, such as writing and text, and immersive experience, maybe AI, VR, and this kind of things. When I introduce my subject, that how I am working on this, is I can introduce you the Cabinet of Lost Memories. I'm working on this subject maybe 2013, and probably I will work on that pretty long more. So I'm calling it lifelong project because it's really growing and growing and growing. So I will just start to explain what is my project. So in Cabinet of Lost Memories, it started as a photography series, and selected photographs from the cabinet has been exhibited in public, and later on then the reaction and the emotion which evoke to the audience is observed and then used. And later on it's really evolved in differently, which you can see it well through the presentation. The Cabinet of Lost Memories is about the finding or the object, artifact, far away from the city, which is abandoned and fenced now, the Varosha, far away from the city, in a field, empty field, burned totally. Just I wanted to explain and show you one object. All the objects that I found, as you can see that they are deformed, burnt, melted, and they were not really having the full shapes. And I couldn't understand the meaning. So I tried to understand, make meaning making out of that, what these objects are. So the everywhere in that field was covered with that. So something like this. So I needed to understand what is this field. But first of all, to able to interpret and mean making out of that, obsessively I was going to the field and making the photographs. And the main aim is just make the photos, but not move the objects or not collect the objects. So then one by one, I start going and making photos, and I make lots of series. I will come to there later. And then one day I realized that these objects having some dates on them, and these dates are not recent. And then I realized that the field is not belongs to today. Fields is actually belongs to backdated of 1974, and it means that it's just before the division of Cyprus. So then I try to interpret the shapes, objects, whatever I found, where are they coming from. And then I contacted with the historians, ask about the field, if anyone knows about this field, what is this field, what is this trash field. And then I really found someone who could understand and know about the topology of the area, and mentioned that this field was used for trash fields for city district of Famagusta, Varosha. So then this is Varosha. Before 74, Varosha was one of the most famous city all over the Mediterranean, even in Europe. It was really cultural-wise a very beyond and very, very well-developed area. And in 74, the city taken by the military, and since that the city is abandoned and civilians since 2021 could able to go for day visit, but you cannot go to the buildings, you cannot go or take anything. It's forbidden and still military. So from this city turned to that. So it's totally fenced, and in Cyprus, two cities having this experience. One is Famagusta and the other one is Nicosia, the capital. The both cities are fenced, and you can see the military bases in daily life, and you can see the UN stations. So it feels like, horrific, but when you live in it, it's normal. It becomes your normal. As we refer that sometimes what you see then and what you live needs an experience to meaning making out of it. So then, as every day that I'm going in my routine and trying to make the photos of the objects that I found, and then coming home and trying to, find out what are they and how are they. Most of the time, I'm not really go through the cleaning and making, what is that? I just collecting them. After the photography sessions, I realized that when I go the day after, some objects are not there anymore. So I cannot collect them. They disappears totally. And ethically, I was having this struggle since I know that all the objects are coming from the city and they were belong to someone. So I was really hesitating to collecting them. But then when I go there again, and then I could not find the objects, maybe broken or taken by someone else, I said that instead of they go somewhere else, I keep them with me. So then at the moment that with photography, I start collecting the objects. So then I start having the objects and some collection from there. So since I become the trash collector. So I was using the photographs to evoke the emotions. I used the photographs to represent the subject, construct realities. And this was my first photo that I made from the series. So then I start conceptualizing the series about abandonedness, about the war crimes, about the lives. And then one day I had many little art craft, and then I decided to use them as an installation to evoke some emotions of the Varoshian, and hoping that someone could spot one of the objects and could tell me what does it mean for them. So then I make the first installation in Famagusta with a bicommunal activity. So I install a cabinet and I put all the objects. And actually, all the Varoshians who came next to it, they recognized some objects, and they were discussing between each other that they were referring to their childhood memories and related, subjects. So you could see that they were having some nostalgia through these artifacts. Later on, I moved that exhibition together with the sound and the photography and the immersive experience to America. So then people could able to find the object by themselves and trying to grab them to have the same experience. But of course, the objects were not the one that I collected, the objects that I bought to put them in there. They're so precious, I could not able to, give them away. And in here, the theory to action and interaction, the cabinet of lost memories triggered more other research for me. So I started with photography, and I started with the emotional evoke of the Varoshian. But then I go through the memory studies. Then I go through the displacement stories. I go through the colonial stories. I go to dark tourism. I go to space and archaeology, cities and sustainable things. And then this is how Varosha is look. And you are not allowed to go in these streets, totally military controlled. But then you see two different communities. One is mourning and grieving about their loss, and other one is using it as a dark tourism subject as the thematic, like making the music video, making the entertainment video, making wedding ceremonies. And this actually is really, makes you to have this contradiction and this cultural dilemma of, what is the city and you see what is going to be there now. And it's also creates a very big confusion about the visitors as well as the previous living people. So because of that you go into this kind of researches very much, you also start becoming an activist, and then you start talking about some other subjects because you studied them very much. I think this is the wrong presentation that I uploaded in here. The other one is a little bit longer. Can I try to upload the second one? So can we have a little bit more? I'm sorry, I'm going to take the second one, upload it in here. It's coming. Sorry. The second one is having difficulties to get upload. It's coming now. Sorry.
No problem, Aysu.
So meanwhile, while uploading the second one, I can give you a couple of examples of what I learned when I start asking people about the objects and the artifacts. For instance, this is a marble. So I find many marbles that you can see. And when I asked the Varoshians what they remember,
What?
I think there is a problem with the sound. I can hear my sound.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. So they were telling me that in their childhood they were playing with.
Yeah. Young boy in Brazil, in Rio, in my city.
Would you please switch me to the second second?
What? We have a time delay, I think. And what do you think about your video? 7 minutes.
Yes.
I think it's interesting for our student to watch this video. Is wonderful, beautiful move, your move about this experience, multimodal experience.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I uploaded the second presentation. Would you please add it to the screen?
It's very. I have a ask. I have a question for you. Can I do that?
Sure, of course.
Okay. Your work is fantastic, beautiful, interesting experience, and to start in the trash. Okay, trash. The multimodal experience combines photos, audiovisuals, testimonies, and artistic installation. What is your biggest concern in merging these forms and contents? What the biggest?
I'm very sorry. Sound is overlapping and I cannot understand you.
Okay, I will repeat the question, okay? I will try again.
Sure.
The multimodal experience combines photos, audiovisual, testimonies, and artistic installation, okay? What was your biggest concern in merging these forms and contents?
As a communication scholars, of course, the most important things is meaning making for communication. What is the message that you're creating? And especially when you go through the other one's footstep and you try to, understand what is it and how it is, you could able to put there a false information or you can made up.
Okay.
So this is one of the most dangerous things because you can misinterpret them. So instead of you what kind of meaning you give to them, you try to understand what is the meaning for them, and then it could be better. I can give one example that one of my founding was one of the whistle. And I was thinking that I found the whistle because Varosha is a city that next to the seaside. So everybody very much involved with the swimming and seaside and water sport activities. And when I asked to someone from the Varosi, what is this? They told me that it's actually a little toy coming out from like a surprise act. And that was the moment that I said I will never make my own interpretation about the objects because it leads you wrong in your research. As an artistic object, I don't see them as an artistic object, and I am not an artist. I am a researcher, so I'm just putting everything as an exhibition to give the messages to people.
Okay. Interesting. And can you put this video now to
Yes.
watch? That's okay? Or do you like to speak more on other things about your work?
I have some examples. If you can put the presentation again to the screen.
Okay.
I cannot put the presentation on by myself. I don't know why. Excellent. It's there now. I can see it. Thank you. So you see that in the photography sessions, I had lots of photographs, which they were actually the toy. So, but when you take the photos, you frame them. So then, my first aim without moving any toy or any objects that I found as it is. So I had no intention to frame them or try to, change the light, direction, or anything. For instance, these toys or objects that I found they are really so small, very small. And when I didn't collect them, I couldn't find them later on. So then I start collecting them. So I have some series of cars, series of marbles. And this is the whistle that I was mentioning before. And the marbles, many marbles, many colorful marbles. As well as that, I found many metal objects, which was very fascinating because all of them are having some marks on that. So then I start collecting metals from the antique office, and they all have this Hong Kong mark. And then I realized that it is actually our colonial connection because we are part of the British colonies, Hong Kong and Cyprus. So I studied the colony and the colonial history through these metals. These are the ones that I found in the field. And then I wanted to have the full ones. So then I went to the market for the antique shops, and then I bought some of them. And these are the dark tourism that it is going, even though the people's oral histories are going for commercializing for these purposes. So they are selling their stories, they are going and making the weddings and this kind of things.
Great.
Thank you very much. I'm just showing you a couple of objects that I collected. So you see that still I don't even clean them. I just try to keep them as how I found them. So I'm very happy to hear the questions and comments if you have.
Okay, Aysu, thank you very much. To be continued, what's the another steps your research? Okay, what is the
my next step is
next steps in your researching?
I would like to work on the documentary of this process now, because I think it's important to record the memories of the people related with these objects.
Okay. Our students are gonna go the question for you. Can you hear me? Ok.
Yes.
Por favor, coloquem as perguntas na tela. Put this question in the screen for Professor Aysu.
Yes.
Okay, and I have a question, another question for you. Again, please, what moved in your this production, and what was the biggest difficulty in this research process? Okay, I will speak
Yes,
slowly.
yes.
Okay, what moved you the most in this production, and what was the biggest difficulty in this research process?
Of course, I mean, the most biggest difficulties is to find what are the objects and what are the function, I mean, modalities of these objects to the people, especially for the Warusians. So that was the biggest concern that I needed to be very clear with my messages and with my intentions, because this is a very sensitive issue, and then you could able to misinterpret it. And I was really concerned about that. I wanted to stay very ethical, and I wanted to be very open and build up some trust between me and them. So this really needed to take time. And every time when you are contacting with someone, and then you listen their history, their memories, I mean, it's also sometimes very emotional and very heavy, that you come home, but you are human, and it's very difficult and it's sad. So then you need to digest what you hear, what is going on. So you are having these war memories, childhood memories. So some memories are not so happy.
Okay. I understood. Professor Aysu, I have another question, but not exactly about your work, but our working group in EIMCR. I would like to finish with some consideration about this new EIMCR Multimodal Communication Research Group. What are the biggest challenge for us, for this group, that deals with art and academic research between art and science?
I think the biggest struggle that, I mean, probably you too, me too, we are an academic person, and we are very much visual peoples as well. So you are making documentaries, I'm making documentary, and I'm working on photography. But that's also, I always needed to highlight that I am not artist. I use this as a subject to able to meaning making out of it. So these are my tools, these are my mediums as a communication scholar. So I use art as a medium to express. So it's not about that I'm trying to make a career in art. I'm trying to make the multimodality with a sound, with a scent, odor, memory, how these are communicating with people. So I am trying to make experience of that as a communication. So these are the difficulties, because artists and the art fields are interpreting it that everybody becomes an artist. My concern is not making an artist. My concern is how to make communication, meaning making out of the art.
Do you think your work is art and science?
Of course, yes.
Yeah?
Sure.
Ok. Temos mais alguma pergunta?
Sem perguntas, professor.
Oi, diga. Diga, alô?
Sem perguntas.
Tá, bota na tela para ela ler, por favor. Okay. Professor Aysu, thank you very much for our presentation. It's an honor for us. And see you next July in Singapore.
Thank you very much for hosting me, inviting me. Thank you very much for listening my researches. See you in Singapore very soon.
Bye-bye. Thank you very
Ciao.
much.
Ciao.
Ciao.